There's nothing in here. I don't have any tea in it right now because I got lipstick on, but I'm just gonna hold it. I really need to get a straw. Welcome back to another episode of Beauty and the Tea. If you did not know, my name is Harley Nouveau, and the purpose of this channel is to document my journey towards my North Star, while hopefully helping you find yours along the way. So if that sounds like the place for you, then subscribe to my channel and add your name to the storybook that is my life. Don't you just hate it whenever you're doing your wing liner and it just keeps getting larger and larger because you keep messing up? I have hooded eyes, you know. Granted, they're not like super tiny, but the larger my liner gets, the more of my eye is covered up. In today's chapter, in honor of Valentine's Day, we're going to be talking about love. L is for the way you look at me. The subject of so many songs. It mustn't be love, but it's over now. It makes the world go round. What's love got to do with it? I can sing all these songs because my channel's not monetized, so I can't get a copyright strike. I mean, I guess I could. But the most I would do is just mute and, I don't know, play funky music. I have some pomade in my hair today. Do we like how that turned out? Sound off in the comments below. Anyway, as I was saying, today's rendition of Beauty and the Tea is about love. Specifically, it's gonna be about the types of love according to psychologists and the ancient Greeks. I'm gonna break down those 8 different types and what they are and yeah, give my thoughts on them. This is going to be a 2-part video similar to when I did friendship, although that first friendship one was kind of bad in my opinion. And I will be following this up next week with the recap of every love I've ever had and every love I've ever lost. So if you want to see a depressing ass video, tune in. Let's get into this. I'm going to be miming me drinking this. Pay no mind, I'm super extra. Now, I'm not going to attempt to butcher the Greek names of these 8 different types of love. I'm just going to tell you the types of love. If you really wanted to see me destroy a language that is not my own, I apologize. It's not happening today. The first love we're going to talk about is selfless love, or unconditional love as it's also known, or spiritual love as it's also known. You'll find out as I get into this that there are a lot of things through various videos you'll see that kind of pop up and reoccur throughout all of human history and culture, some shared ideas between people that maybe not necessarily interacted with each other, but somehow still understood those universal truths, if you will. You know, care for the elderly, care for the young, care for the poor. Selfless love means to love regardless of needs. It's where one loves wholeheartedly without personal gain. Loving without any attachment or expectation, meaning that whatever you do it from your heart. Buddhists called this concept universal loving kindness. It's the purest form of love. It's free from desire. Nature is an example of selfless love. The sun burns itself to nourish the earth, to nourish the universe, and it doesn't get anything in return. So when we say it's unconditional, it's bigger than ourselves, it's boundless compassion, it's endless empathy. Obviously the sun can't feel empathy, that's just a metaphorical example. Next up is self-love. You know, as RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how are you gonna love anybody else? The Greeks understood this, that in order to care for others, you had to care for yourself first and foremost. This form of self-love is not vanity or ego or self-obsession or focusing on personal fame, fortune, iconography, or narcissism in any way. Instead, what we're talking about is self-love in its healthiest form. It's the understanding that once you have the strength to love yourself and feel comfortable in your own skin, only then will you have the capacity to provide that same feeling to others. To quote Aristotle, all friendly feelings for others are an extension of man's own feelings for himself. It's impossible to share what you don't have. If I don't have food, which obviously I do. If I don't have food, I can't give food to people because I don't have any to give. If I don't have love for myself, how do I have love to give to someone else? This involves learning to look past all of your insecurities, learning to look past the things that you dislike about yourself, and loving them regardless. Next up is enduring love, or a love that has aged and matured over time. This is a dynamic specifically that requires the passage of time to achieve. For example, friendships that have lasted decades, married couples that have been married for their entire lives. You know, you ask them their feelings for each other, and it's very different than how it was at first, because it's the type of love that you can only achieve when you truly begin to know somebody or something else to the core of their being. And to do that, you have to spend time. You can't figure everything out about something in a day or an hour. Unfortunately though, because it is time-centric, it is one of the most elusive loves to ever have or encounter, because we spend so much time and energy on looking for love, specific types not stated, and so little time learning and how to maintain it. People who often feel like an emptiness, so they go around trying to fill that hole, but they never allow enough time for something to fill the hole. They see if the piece fits, maybe it doesn't right now, but instead of waiting for it to fit eventually, they just toss it out and replace it with something else. Unlike the other types of love, this is contingent upon efforts from both sides. It's not something that you only need yourself to do. It takes two to tango, they say. This is love between people who have learned to make compromises, have learned patience and tolerance in order to make a relationship work. Everything has its ups and downs, and enduring love stands for getting past all of that and still having a true love regardless. The next type of love is obsessive love. Never a good thing. This is a type of love that can lead somebody into madness or obsessiveness or controllingness, possessiveness. People who have obsessive love, it's a means of giving them self-validation. People who are codependent would suffer from obsessive love because their entire identity is wrapped around loving someone else and being loved by somebody else. And there are people who will prey on this. This person wants to love and be loved as a way of self-value. But because of this, they frequently end up becoming jealous, possessive people, toxic people who feel as though they need somebody. And you shouldn't ever rely on somebody or something else outside of yourself, with of course the exception of like sustenance, like water and food, to survive. Because ultimately the existence that you lead is going to be an empty one. And if the other people who are targeted by this obsessive love fail to reciprocate, it leads to a lot of problems, such as codependency, like I said, abuse, domestic and otherwise, even sometimes death. So this is definitely one of the loves that you would want to keep the most in check and try to avoid. Next we have playful love, which, as the Greeks described, the kind of affection between young lovers, the feeling we have when we go through like the early stages of falling in love with somebody. Playful love is kind of like the honeymoon phase, if you will. The fluttering heart, the flirting, the teasing, the feelings of euphoria whenever you see somebody, the joy that is brought by interacting with someone that you have feelings for, at least the juvenile joy. Playfulness in love is an essential part of love that is often lost in the long term. Frequently, this will transition into enduring love if you get to that point. Otherwise, you have fleeting moments of playful love, but you never really experience the enduring love, as mentioned earlier. Playfulness is one of the secrets to keeping the childlike innocence of your love life alive, or interesting, or exciting. To those people who you would describe as like shining lights in the world around you, they seem maybe jovial, naive, perhaps, but pure and warm and welcoming. Those are frequently people that are examples of playful love working its magic. Because keep in mind, not all of these loves have to be romantic. Some of them, however, are, of course, and some are not. For example, next up is familiar love, which is love without physical attraction, similar to friendship and family. It's a natural form of affection that often flows between people who are bonded to each other, whether it be through blood or life circumstance, but without any romance ever coming into the picture. The thing with familiar love is that it is kind of a double-edged sword. It can be good, but it also has its negative aspects, especially if the people of which you share this attachment with aren't the most healthy for you or the most supportive. You guys know I've talked a lot throughout my past year of the struggle I've had with my family growing up, because I loved them and I wanted them to love me, but they just weren't the healthiest of individuals. In fact, they were very harmful to me. And I let my familiar love blind me to that and allow myself to keep falling victim to certain circumstances. This is definitely another type of love that you would want to keep your eye on. You would want to make sure it doesn't rule you. You don't really want any type of love to rule you, but you want to protect yourself from ones that perhaps carry over from infancy, like this one. The next one we have is affectionate love, which the Greeks valued the most of all the 8 types of love because it was considered a love between equals. Plato felt that physical attraction was not really a necessary aspect of love. That's why we have the term platonic love, another example of affectionate love, which is love without physical attraction, especially relevant and prominent among friends who have endured hard times together. Your best friends are going to fall under the category of affectionate love because you love them in every way possible that there is to love somebody, except for in romance. Encompasses the sense of loyalty among friends, camaraderie among teammates, and sacrifice for the sake of the group. This is a type of love that you would share with people that you would consider your soulmates, people who you see as completing you, because again, it is love between equals. I think that this can often be one of the most elusive types of loves as well. So if you ever find yourself possessing it, make sure to cherish it and don't lose it. And then finally, we have the most basic form of love, which is erotic love, named after the god of love and fertility, Eros. This type of love encompasses sexual passion and desire. Now, it is important to know that the Greeks thought that erotic love was dangerous because it kind of involved a sense of loss of control. A lot of it is involuntary through the primal impulse to experience pleasure or to procreate, depending on who you are. It's an intense form, a passionate form of love that arouses romance, that arouses sexual feelings. When you look at people and you're attracted to them, this is a form of erotic love. Often people mistake erotic love for some of the earlier other forms, and it can lead them down a dark path to impulsive actions or heartbreak. Whenever you mischaracterize erotic love as a type of something else, but it's not more than it is, and thus it can't fulfill what you want from it. It's the most primal form of love, but it's also the most powerful form of love, and that it burns out quickly, and you need it to be supplemented by the earlier types of love for it to really endure and thrive, for it to not be hollow or shallow or basic in its capacity. You need to combine it with one of the other forms. Now, the purpose of sharing all this with you and why I do some of these is to hopefully give you a better understanding, albeit a quick summary, of certain aspects of the world and how it works, in hopes that maybe you can see yourselves or see other people in the aspects of what I talk about, and maybe that will allow you a little more freedom and a little more control in how you interact with them. AKA, I hope that you can see these types of loves and you can see the people of which you have it and the people that you don't but wish to, and understand where to go from there. You know, I had, albeit like barely anybody, I had 1 or 2 people that watched my friendship video and talked about how they realized certain aspects of their lives were toxic, or maybe they weren't valuing it enough after I talked about the types of friendships they had, because they were able to say, hey, that's somebody I know, and maybe I'm not handling it correctly. Maybe some of these loves you have, some of them you don't, and you haven't been allowing it to run the course that it should run. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a mid-20s homosexual who gets stared at when he goes out in public. That's pretty much all that she wrote in today's chapter of my story, and in this rendition of Beauty and the Tea. Wasn't much tea there. Do you recognize faces and the types of love mentioned beforehand? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to get your perspective on these ideas, and I would love to see how your life is affected by the 8 kinds of love. As for myself, you've heard me talk about a lot of them, and you'll hear me talk specifically about my relation to some of them in my next video. But until then, as always, I am Harley Nouveau, and I wish each of you every happiness until our stars next align.